So I think from a young age, curiosity was there, different avenues was there, wanting to bring people together was there. So building the studio, building these types of environments, and then having that dance studio for 10 years and seeing how cool it is to collaborate, how cool it is to bring different communities together within dance and also outside of dance, because you've got the commercial world, the street world, the ballet world, the modern world. It's nice to bring those together as well. And then bring it together with the photographers, with the designers. Maybe we can do a fashion show with dancers. Maybe we can do this fundraising event with a virtual dance class, things that people weren't necessarily doing because they were sticking to the one lane. I think I've always loved opening it up. And one of my favorite poems is The Road Less Traveled by Robert Frost. And I feel like all I've ever done is take the road less traveled and then kind of build new roads.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of human ingenuity, clever, inventive, and original thinking. My name is Ken Tencer, curator of Say Hi to the Future and CEO of Spyder Works, a leading business consultancy for mid-market organizations and intrapreneurs globally. With me today is Giulia Tripoli, dancer, choreographer, and co-founder of Tripoli Studios and The Workroom. Giulia was a judge on panels for iDance, 5678 Showtime, Move with the Beat, Represent, and JFK's foundation, Dancing with the Stars. She's now embarking on a new journey with her friend and professional dancer, Sarah Steben. Workroom 5584 is a co-creation space in Montreal that offers new and exciting opportunities for artists to create, network, engage, and flourish in their own personal projects. Like this video if you enjoy our show and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who you would like to see us interview next. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Giulia, welcome to Say Hi to the Future today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is really exciting. I mean, let's start with what you just officially launched last week, Workroom 5584 Montreal. What is that?
So myself and my incredible business partner, Sarah Steben, have opened a brand new, one of a kind, doesn't exist anywhere else in Quebec, co-working space for all artists. So we've decided to combine our primary love, which is dance, with photography, videography, podcasting, recording, graphic design, clothing, everything that you can think of in the realm of art and artwork. We've got dance studios, one really big broadcast studio for shows and pop-up shops and events. We've got a nice co-working space so that artists can come in and get stuff done. So we have desks, chairs, tables, free Wi-Fi, everything that you need to come in and get everything done, and then also be around people who are also getting stuff done. So that's super motivating as well. We've got offices, we've got places if you need meetings, photography studio, fun little podcast area, chairs, microphones, plants. So it's get to work, but it also feels like home, hence the term workroom. 5584 is our address. So this is the location where you come to get to work. And we're super excited to launch this, get it started, get it moving, and help the entire artist community collaborate, create, and just everything that they need to do. Basically, during the pandemic, we were told that art and artists were not essential. So we decided to kind of flip that on its head and give them a space to show the world that they are super essential and super important.
Well, I love that. I mean, one, it's for me, it's a maker space for creativity. And there is no time in history at which creativity or artistry has not been essential. And I think coming out of the pandemic,
Yes.
being able to explore that, being able to experience it for those of us who you do not want to see dance. I just think it's such an important thing that you're doing.
Thank you very, very much. And you're absolutely right. If you think about it, you don't go a single day without art, what you wear, what you look at, everything that you're doing when you even walk to your non-artistic job, you know, and to be told during the pandemic that we should find other jobs was very disconcerting and disheartening, because it was coming from people who use our art every single day.
Yeah.
So we're gonna show them. We're gonna show them, and now that you've got a space to do it, everybody can come together and help one another thrive.
What's really nice too, and you just said, as you walk to your non-creative jobs, I mean, obviously, my background, my passion is around innovation and ingenuity, clever, inventive, original thinking. I always tell people, they say, where do ideas come from? And I say, you just don't go onto don't get into the subway if you're in a new city. Like wherever I am, I know if it's New York, I'll walk 50 blocks. I mean, I live in Toronto. The art in the alleys in Toronto is just phenomenal, and I don't think people understand the passion and the creativity that's around us every step we take going to work.
1000%. And I tell a lot of dancers that I in particular draw inspiration from, I would say, 95% non-dance related things. That's where this kind of extra idea wagon comes from. I love nature. I love art, books, movies, everyday pedestrian life. Like you said, in the subway, you might see something while you're walking, while you're sitting, while you're driving, that sparks this crazy idea. And I think it's beautiful. We can draw it from everyday life, and we can also collaborate and do it together. I can combine my idea with your idea, and we can make a third idea happen. So there's something really amazing about everyday life. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that statement. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. And I've always said, and it's more true than ever now, is you got to get your head out of your screen.
Yes.
If you keep looking, I know, if you keep looking and doing the same thing over and again, that's the only lens in which you're going to see the world. So
Totally.
Whether you're in business, whether you are creative or in a creative business, man, you've just got to change things up. You've got to see the world differently to get an idea.
Especially with that feeling of being stuck, there's writer block, there's dancer block, there's creation block. There's a lot of these things. Get outside of the comfort zone, visit a museum, take a look at some beautiful paintings and statues and things like that. Especially during the pandemic, so many artists, went through a very tough time, went through a very enclosed, I would even say, depression for a lot, because it was a dark space to not be sharing with one another. So my advice that entire time was look elsewhere, or maybe don't even look at all. Just spend a day doing a bunch of random things and see where that takes you. I ended up falling even more in love with speaking, even more in love with interviewing, even more in love with reading, when as before I didn't even have the time to do that, really. We're constantly hustling and working on our craft, so the me time and the self-care doesn't exist. So flip that pandemic over, and instead of feeling like you're stuck in some type of confinement, I like to call it my cocoon phase. So I'm all about the caterpillar to butterfly situation. So take that as your time to close in and then reopen, maybe as something super brand new. And artists have the power to reinvent themselves. We can change and be different every single day until the end of time, right? We don't have to stay in one box. There's perhaps no box at all. And I think that it's really cool to do that. It's just, a process of accepting that things can change, and it's okay if they do change, and it's okay if we steer left, steer right, whatever it may be, go back, go front. Pandemic definitely taught us a lot of things in the art world, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, it did. And I think it taught us a lot in the business world too. And I think, I've always, when you talk about innovation and creativity, I've always just talked about comedy. I've talked about improv. I've talked about how people learn to build on ideas of one another. And I think there's just so much that can be learned, and maybe it's an idea for your makerspace. But there's so much that can be learned by business people from creative people. And I think that the world of comedy has done it very well. And I think there's a lot of other areas where just sharing and understanding how to build versus how to be right. I think, boy, that would help a lot of us.
Oh, I love that. Learning how to build rather than how to be right. I've also, on the flip side, learned a lot from more business savvy individuals. I mean, I opened my first space 10 years ago, Tripoli Studios Inc., which was an all drop-in studio in Quebec. Again, the first of its kind. A lot of these things existed in Toronto, LA, New York, but in Montreal, it was very much based on recreational dance, competitive dance. There wasn't just come take a class whenever you want. Everyone is welcome, no judgment. So when I did that, people thought I was a little bit crazy. And I also didn't have, to be honest, the proper business plan in mind. I just wanted a home for everyone to come where they felt welcome and there were no outsiders. But I didn't think of how much money I was going to be generating. I gave people classes for free. I paid teachers way too much to start because I wanted to honor their worth and their value, because I came from being a teacher and so many times we are undervalued. So I ended up also learning a lot. And now I do consider myself much more of a creative brain, but there is a business aspect to it. And opening this new space, I'm not repeating those same mistakes. A lot of it for the arts is the financial aspect. We don't do it for the money. So when we start a business based on our passion, based on our love, again, we don't end up doing it for the money, but we still have to pay bills and survive. So there would be a lot to kind of learn if we brought those business heads and those creatives together to kind of do some active listening and some have some openness and maybe grab some things from one another. I think that would be such an interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, business has to make some amount of money to stay in business. But
yeah.
You know what I say? I always say that whether it's being a guest on Say Hi to the Future or attending one of our conferences, that the two things you need are passion and savage curiosity. And I think that if you have an absolute passion for what you're doing and you're curious and you really love it, you can learn how to add. You can find somebody who can teach you how to add or to do the numbers. But I just don't believe that people can. I'm sure they can inspire passion within you, but it has to come from within.
1,000%, because I also didn't love the fact that the things like the accounting, like the taxes, hurt my creativity. You know, it literally hurt my brain to do that part, and it stifled parts of me. So eventually finding someone to do that, or someone that could break it down so that I understand. I've got a good friend of mine that does like taxes for artists, and it breaks it down in a way that, you know, makes a lot more sense to us. So learning those things along the way, like you said, and also just accepting that we're always learning. Like there's never a point where we stop this. There's always something to learn. And I think also, as we learned over the last 2 years, there's stuff we need to unlearn as well. But continuing to learn, continuing to grow, continuing to be open will only help my business and help my creativity and help my art.
Perfect. So I'm talking to Giulia Tripoli. You're a dancer, you're a choreographer, you're a co-founder of Workroom, 5584 Montreal. And we're talking about creativity today. So as I said, you know, passion, savage curiosity, you've got it. But where does it come from? Because I mean, you don't go to a creative makerspace the way you've described through an epiphany. I mean, there's got to be some background or some build up to it. So tell us what it is.
So, I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up within an environment and a family that was very welcoming and open and had us try everything. So my parents put me in piano, singing, karate, swimming, water polo, all of these crazy random things that allowed me to have almost multiple lives growing up. You know, I was a lifeguard for a good amount of time. I learned how to run a pool, just these kind of crazy skills that I didn't even realize I was acquiring. And then in school, I was part of the debate team, chess club, improv team, all these sports things as well, just because I wanted to try everything and do everything. So my curiosity came from a young age, but from my parents telling me, you don't know until you try. So please go and try, and we'll figure out later what it is you want to do. I ended up going to CEGEP in police technology because I thought I wanted to be a criminal investigator and save the world. Turns out I just wanted to be on an episode of Law and Order. I grew up watching Matlock. Some people listening to this might not remember Matlock.
I do.
Okay, good. It was one of my favorite shows with my father. So I grew up always curious and not limiting myself to any lane in particular. So I only discovered dance when I was 18. And it came from a background of being on a sports team. So then when I was asked to be on a dance team, that was a very different concept. I didn't quite understand why we all had to look the same, why we were going to compete. What is a dance competition? There's no game. I was kind of a little lost when it came to that. And in my heart of hearts, I kept feeling at my studio like I wanted something different, that there was something more out there for me than the competing, than this team. I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with teaching almost immediately. I had been coaching and teaching swimming from a younger age. So I fell in love with dance teaching and seeing the students grow. So that sparked another level. And then I was kind of discovered by a big choreographer in Toronto by the name of Luther Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought me over to train with him for a few months. And I discovered a whole other version of dance that I did not know existed, because Toronto dance scene and Montreal dance scene are very different. I'm sure you've seen that yourself. Yes. And I got to explore even more and see different versions of stuff. Oh, I don't have to fit in this dance lane either. I didn't want to backup dance for artists. I did. It was enjoyable, but I kept feeling like I wanted more, like there was something missing. I went to Vegas. I lived in Vegas for a bit. I lived in China twice. So I got to see all these different versions of art. And I came back when I was 27 and I said, I think I know what it is that I want to do. And it's something missing in Montreal, which is a home for everyone to come after they're done with these comp and rec studios. Because we were all moving out of Montreal. We were leaving because there was nothing for us to do here. The work is minimal. And as far as shows and stuff are concerned, it's French TV, and that's very much a closed, knitted situation. Hard to get in there. So I said, let me create something that doesn't exist, and let me see if that will then help broaden other people's horizons as well, to figure out what they want to do, because everyone else was following these paths that they thought they had to be on. But as an artist, as a dancer, as a mover, there are a lot more options. So I think from a young age, curiosity was there, different avenues was there, wanting to bring people together was there. So building the studio, building these types of environments, and then having that dance studio for 10 years and seeing how cool it is to collaborate, how cool it is to bring different communities together within dance and also outside of dance, because you've got the commercial world, the street world, the ballet world, the modern world. It's nice to bring those together as well. And then bring it together with the photographers, with the designers. Maybe we can do a fashion show with dancers. Maybe we can do this fundraising event with a virtual dance class. Things that people weren't necessarily doing because they were sticking to the one lane. I think I've always loved opening it up. And one of my favorite poems is The Road Less Traveled by Robert Frost. And I feel like all I've ever done is take the road less traveled and then kind of build new roads adjacent to that road.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing, though. I think that, look, trailblazing is hard. It's painful. A lot of people talk about entrepreneurs and what we need. And I always talk about audacity, and they say, oh, that's a negative. I said, no, it's just a belief in yourself that you might have an idea that it is different, that an idea that is maybe a better way to go than the rest. And boy, if you don't believe in yourself, especially at the beginning, I don't say nobody's going to believe in you, but very few people. And boy, you've got to just get up and want it.
You got to just keep pushing. I mean, I'm a very stubborn individual, so that works to my advantage and disadvantage. But my grandmother used to cut out the quote of the day from the Gazette. So we would always have, that's a newspaper.
Yeah, I remember that too.
So she used to cut out the quote of the day of the Gazette and send it to me wherever I was in the world. And one of the best ones was, beyond talent lie all the usual words: love, luck, discipline, but most of all, endurance. And I think all I've done is endure, which has created a thick skin, which has created my ability to be solution driven and just never give up. If there's something I want to change, I have to be vocal about it. If there's something that doesn't exist that I think we need, I've got to start it. Can't sit there and complain about it. You just got to get it done.
Yeah.
You just got to get it done. I even tattooed the word endurance on my foot. So I'm walking forward every day knowing that I've got that to ground me. And I feel like I'm going to keep doing it. So this new space was a combination of, yes, dancers need a home, but artists also need to take themselves seriously and work on stuff. Get on the computer, put yourself out there, look for those grants, get your resume done, get that video done. And maybe while being here, you're going to meet new people that can help you do that.
Yeah.
So that came with another pandemic pivot, but also just the desire to continue to create something that I think we need that we didn't have before.
Yeah, what I really love, I mean, when I listen to you, I think of, well, the now late Sir Ken Robinson, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's the most watched, or he had the most watched, I believe it still is, TED Talk ever.
TED Talk, yes, I read about. I have 3 TED Talk books, so I read about him and I read the entire speech. Yeah.
Yeah, no, brilliant. He talks about being in your element, which is that junction of passion and aptitude. But one of the stories he tells, and I really hope I get it right, but it'll be close enough. A young girl brought to 2 different doctors, one who believed she had ADD and wanted to provide medication, and the other who said, "Oh, let's leave the room and watch her through the window," and saw her dance. And he turned to the mother and said,
Yes.
she should be a dancer. And she
Yes.
turned out to be one of the lead choreographers with Andrew Lloyd Webber, one of the best known in the world. So
I know
the
story,
when you're talking
you nailed it.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. But so many times, especially in school, it's that entire principle of like, if you ask all the animals to climb a tree as their test, the fish is always going to fail. So you're asking all of these people in school to do the same thing, but artists didn't have the same mentality in school. And instead of being put in a different category and offering them other things, they were just considered to perhaps sometimes not be as intelligent as everyone else, which is super sad. Now, thankfully, they have programs like Spyder in Montreal, and that includes dance.
Right.
That includes art. It includes music. So people can thrive in the things that they were pretty much born to do. But as in school, I don't think, in high school especially, I wasn't even offered curated for my actual sport. We were just meant to be doing all these things all day, every day, school homework, and then trying to fit your practices in between and trying to also, live the teenage life. But that's exactly it. You might think that there's something wrong with this poor girl who might have ADD, ADHD, but maybe she just needs to dance. Maybe she's just an artist. Maybe her way of doing math is not the same as you. And instead of considering that a negative, maybe we can see where that leads her instead. That's such a good story.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
such a good story.
absolutely. And I have to put this in here because I like to write books and I obviously like to talk, but hopefully spoken word continues its, like I watched last year just the final America's Got Talent, where the winner was a spoken word artist. And then at Biden's inauguration, I believe the first youth poet laureate. Oh boy. She changed the world that day. I mean, I have never seen impressions like that internationally. For somebody who can speak, who can move people with words and thoughts like that. So hopefully there's a little bit of space.
I think there is. I like to combine it with dance pieces from time to time. So a dear friend of mine is a writer, speech pathologist, and poet, and she'll write pieces for our dance shows. And sometimes we'll start with a spoken word. Sometimes it'll be the overlay instead of the music. Sometimes we'll have it, up there prior or after a piece, because words are just as powerful sometimes as the music. But that's so interesting that you brought it up, because I think it's such a beautiful art form.
It is. So Giulia, thank you so much for being on. Workroom 5584 just launched in Montreal. Leave us with one final thought. I mean, I'm an artist. I'm creative. I go to the workroom. What do I leave feeling?
Oh, energized, inspired. It's a place to inspire and be inspired. And what we've had so far as comments is when people walk in, they feel welcomed, they feel at home, and they feel like they're ready to create or to work on something. And I feel like during the pandemic, when we had to be at home and sometimes dance in our kitchens or self-tape in our bathrooms, it can be a very daunting feeling. It can be a very heavy feeling. you walk in here and you're ready. You're ready to create, you're ready to learn, you're ready to be present, you're ready to collaborate and create with others. And I think you leave feeling good. You leave feeling a little lighter, you leave feeling happy. And I'm just happy talking about it, basically, because I get to see everybody come in and I watch as their vibrations and their energies kind of change throughout being here. And we're not full force just yet. We're waiting for our crowdfunding campaign to kind of come to an end, actually in 3 days, so that we can make some really cool updates and renovations. But the space already feels like home because that's what we want to transmit as owners, myself and Sarah. So we're hoping people come in here feeling ready and leave here feeling even better.
That is a wonderful way to leave it. Thank you again for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. It's really been a pleasure.
Take care.
Take care.